All right, good morning, everyone. It's 10:03 on July 13th, 2023. We're here for LCA, LCS bargaining. Welcome, everyone. The sign-in sheets going around. Everybody make sure you get on that. Everybody should have an agenda. The 621 minutes were completed and were sent to you guys, and the 622 are pending, and Haley's working on those, so we'll get those to you as soon as we have those complete. We made a lot of progress in our last session. We're able to TA off on some articles. Hopefully we can get come to some consensus on what's remaining today. You see on the agenda, we've got some proposal county proposals coming down the pipe. Article 5, Appendix D, the membership application from the back, I think is like Appendix E, but it's just that one page. Then the leave of absence article coming back that had the bereavement language. Now we put it incorporated into the actual to the end of that. And then following our joint discussions with SEIU, I've got a draft of the MOU for you guys to take a look at today also. Then we'll have some pending issues we can discuss with Guido and Angela have already discussed a little bit of what's going on with the Article 1 stuff and identifying folks, so that work's continuing. And we had a good meeting with our teacher support. We can debrief on that a little bit so people understand kind of the path moving forward with that. And then we've got dates that we can talk about. And I know there's some plans for review if we get to a good spot today. So first coming around is our counter proposal on payroll and dues deduction. At our last meeting, you guys had countered with some language that stated that we would return to the table upon statute change or court issues of final ruling within 15 days. That is not included in our counter proposal. We admitted that just based on, whether it's you guys declaring an impact bargaining or the following bargaining session, you guys can bring this article back with proposal. So when in talking around legal, there are some things they're okay with, but just cautioning against, especially around the court issues and final rulings. I don't know when those will occur. I know there is some of the things did not come back, like the I think the injunction failed at the several levels, but we just feel like that can be brought back in any time. And you guys can bring it back as a opener, reopener when at that time comes about. Or if we have the desire to continue that process, perhaps it would come from our direction. But just with the current state of affairs around that topic, we prefer not to include that. So that was Article 5. We had tuned that up a little bit and exchanged it after our 22nd meeting, and it pretty much looks the same from what it was before, with the things we had discussed on the deletions and the addition. Next, additional paid supplements. On additional paid supplements, this contain several topics, and we were able to come back with some good, but we also had some things we wanted to omit. You guys have proposed the mentoring subcommittee. We'll go ahead and we can just talk about that a little bit. We met this week. Had some really productive conversations with a few of you guys, team members, and Kathy and Elizabeth and Heather. And the conversations went really well. I don't feel like we're at a point where we want to add parameters to that. It's not even defined enough. I want Mr. Flowers to have the opportunity to come back to the next meeting and provide us some feedback with his team. And I think it's quite obvious that we are moving forward with this work. But I'm not sure the level of comfort that we have at this time to relinquish, I don't want to relinquish any of our rights or our obligations to this work from a management side. So we omitted that language on the mentor subcommittee.
So talking about that, though,
yeah.
Within discussions in the subcommittee, if there is something that we do eventually decide on or talk about, then we could develop then an MOU around the mentoring and what we come up with.
I think whatever pieces we identify that are bargainable and need to be bargained, whether it's working conditions or any type of additional compensation that comes out of that, I think we can definitely come to the table and arrange that in the MOU, and then in the following contract negotiations, the adjustments need to be made, we can add it in any of that. The next section, you guys have proposed stipends for the National and Florida History Day Fair. Going back to executive session, talking with the board and talking with the CFO, we were willing to commit some additional funding to this. These would be general fund dollars to cover this, similar to how we cover the science fair. So we are accepting that, and we're hoping that will encourage participation and additional participation, and maybe the ones who've been doing it already. I think we had about 5 middle schools that are participating, and these are middle schools and high schools that go with this. So the potential spend on that, if we were to get full participation, probably it's similar to science fair, it'd be around $25,000. So that's a pretty decent addition to. Within this, you guys had requested with federal grant tutoring that be compensated at the starting base salary and hourly rate of 5%, or plus 5%. I mean, looking at that, if we're paying people at their hourly rate, that's why we did not include that, because we just rather pay people at their hourly rate, and that's what they're worth as far as their hourly time. So that was not included. On the National Certified School Psychologist, we left that the same as what we initially proposed. We don't have funding to support an additional $1,000 for that. And I know there was discussion of moving the 750 up to the 3,000. Not in favor of that, because in the spirit of trying to get people into the district, I think that might be a small carrot for some people that do not hold their national certification yet, that might move some people over from other places and encourage them to move forward and hopefully reach that $3,000 level by getting their national certification. So this is what I'm sure you guys will have to have some discussion over Appendix D, but this is what we have countering back with Appendix D. And I am excited about the addition for the history fair. If we were able to squeeze a few more dollars out, it was nice that we're able to spread it to a group that's felt unrecognized, and that I think that was a big part of, rather than investing that in piling that money on top of investing in a group that that we're almost in agreement on with the psychologist, so nice to direct that funding towards a group that probably needs to spread the wealth a little bit there. Situated here. Membership application, I didn't have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Before you go on, can I
Yeah.
ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So I was trying to find where we put the language about the Title I tutoring and the federal tutoring, like crossed out, and I don't see it on here. Did
You
you?
guys had stuck it under stipend rate. And I admit it from our proposal.
Okay. This, I'm just trying to understand from my own logic, like seeing that language crossed
It
out.
got to where we were getting so many strikes and underlines and bolds that I was like, all right, this is our proposal coming back. Let's get back to the core of what we're hoping to land on. So that's why you don't see that.
And then you mentioned, one of the reasons why you didn't want to move forward with that language, because you wanted to follow the continued, proposals that we've had in the past and agreed upon with the hourly rate.
We try to get to a point where if teachers are working, they're getting paid their hourly rate.
Okay.
And I feel like this is kind of convoluting things and moving it.
But I don't see any language in here about that, so you're not proposing any language about the hourly rate?
I mean, they're making their hourly rate.
No, they're not.
They're not,
That is what I put in there.
because it's tutoring.
Yeah,
Okay, so that is, okay, I get what you're saying.
We
So,
often have difficulty with federal programs in many school districts where they think they get to set a rate and they don't stop and consider the contract sometimes. So it's just been a learning curve.
you think they're basing that on the fact that it's tutoring and not providing instruction, so it's an additional? Okay,
No, it's probably just because that's the number that they picked.
and I imagine that number's been sitting there a while.
It's
It has.
probably very similar to what the base was before we started doing all the big movements over the last
it's
few
$30
years.
an hour. It's been that way for at least this year.
25.
So as at some point today, we'll caucus and we'll take that back for discussion when we do.
And it may just be that we need clarification because this is for teachers attending workshops in service is 25.
Right, that's one thing.
That's one thing. And then tutoring has been $30, but it's not,
It's never been. in
but it's
contract.
not been in contract. So maybe we just need to put the tutoring in there. The tutoring is at $30 an hour. And then if that's what the district is paying is $30 an hour, then it needs to be in here versus then an instructional of doing the writing teams and so forth is their hourly rate of pay.
Well, that hourly rate of pay is on the writing team.
Correct.
So, and what I need to check is the weight that's gonna place on the federal grants. So I apologize for the confusion on that. So we'll check on that. Sure.
The SLPs, their annual supplement, how is it paid out, and when is it paid out? Or is it paid across the year?
It's a supplement, so it's paid across.
So ours would be the same then?
Yeah, it goes across all.
It goes, if it's part of the contract as a supplement, we code it to be spread out across the year.
Okay, perfect.
So it becomes part of your salary.
So we good to move to the next one? Okay. Membership application, I didn't have that document because y'all changed a little bit on what the QR code looked like. But we're fine with the QR code and using that document as the page from appendix C that you guys have.
This updated.
Yeah. So we're good with that. On the leave of absence. We already. How did I go? Yes, let me send it to you. so she's gonna go print this because I thought it was in the batch. But it's the Article 18, it's our leave of absence. We've included the bereavement leave, language at the end. She's gonna go get a copy of that. It's the same as what we had reviewed before, what we reviewed in our subcommittee meeting with SEIU last time around, but she'll go get the specific language so you guys can take a look at that. And while some of the discussion that came out of that last meeting that I want to put on record with you guys, we had talked about in the leave of absence doing some sick leave buyback, and looking at I expressed to that group that looking back and trying to see what the impacts of that would be, we're a little disheartened to see that we're building some auditing processes and some ways to identify, because we're not exactly sure that that all sick leave time is being properly tracked across the system and all call centers. So we're yeah, right. And I think we've got call centers, and heck, it could be happening on this campus, but there's probably an inconsistency of how leave time is being entered and deals being cut, unofficial things going on. And if we're putting in a situation where folks are going to have the ability, we're going to be cutting checks to buy back leave, we're going to need a little time to make sure everything's shored up and accurate, and people understand, that there's going to have to be a new level of accountability for people putting in their sick leave. So that's why that topic we had discussed earlier, kind of subcommittees, has not resurfaced. Hang on one second. But what we do have, and I just did one copy of this, because it is an MOU, but we'll hand this over. So we had some productive conversation about the transfer and donation of sick leave. You know what, let me go grab copies on this real quick also, just so everybody can see, because it is a little bit extensive. But the opening paragraph is what was different from, just as an introduction, from what we had discussed in our subcommittee meeting. And it just says, for the 23-24 school year, all employees of Lake County schools will be permitted to transfer / donate accumulated sick leave to one another through a pilot program. Following the close of the school year, the district and representatives from LCA, as well as other employee groups, will review the implementation and impacts of the program to determine whether it shall continue. Areas of consideration will include, but are not limited to, participation, the overall fiscal impact on the district, the impact on the existing sick leave bank, and other areas of concern that might arise. So I just feel like, we've all kind of wondered, and we beat this around so much in subcommittees, what will this look like, right? And how will people, and I think the part that might not come through this is, how are people going to feel about it? And because I think we're going to have to talk about that a little bit too, because some of that we might not realize, personally, how people are impacted, whether you're a donator or a receiver, or someone who might feel like we missed something that opened them up for solicitation, or whatever the course may be. So I just want to make sure we had an understanding that we would revisit. The kind of the bulleted out, this is very similar to what we discussed and was presented to SEIU with you guys, is the contributions of sick leave will be voluntary, and the names of donors will be confidential. Employees may not solicit donations of sick leave for themselves or others. Employees needing additional sick leave I'm on number 3 when you get. Employees needing additional sick leave may authorize employee relations to communicate the need on their behalf, including their name but absent of medical information. On that, just to bring the group up to speed, we talked about it's going to be a little weird on how this information comes forward. But we did want to provide at least what we felt like could be a channel that will remain in confidence through employee relations. But we're not ignorant to the fact that there are no secrets in Lake County and in the buildings, and it's going to come about from people saying, look, I know, my pod mate or my teammate is fighting cancer and I'd like to contribute to them. So we're gonna set up communication mechanisms so those people know, all right, contact employee relations. If you would like to donate to a person that it hasn't been announced, then you can let us know that. And if that person comes forward as being willing to accept that, or we can channel that or reach out in a confidential manner and let them know that that's an option for them, then we'll handle it through that route. So that I feel like that's one of the bullets we're going to learn a lot about as we go through. Employees may authorize the donation of approved sick leave to any other district employee for at least 1 year without a break in service.
Which one? The one donating or the one receiving, or both?
It's the one that's receiving. So if you're receiving, you have to have been here for a year without a break in service.
But people wouldn't be able to use it their first year.
Correct. 1 sick leave day shall mean the number of hours an employee is contracted to work for 1 day of work. And that gets into when we're looking at, so this is where it gets a little confusing, right? Then 5, 6, and 7. The authorizing employee must retain 10 days of sick leave in order to donate to a recipient. So those days are obviously equal a different amount of hours, but to kind of protect the donator, we want to make sure they're at least covering their own personal days. And so, but when it comes down to what the receiver is receiving, it'll be number of hours. So that way, well, you had a 6-hour food service worker that wants to donate a day in her mind to a 7.5-hour employee, and she's donating a day. So we know that she's not crossing the threshold that's going to make her up, but he is receiving that equal amount number of hours, and it might not equal his day, but at least he got some hours covered. So with this is an executive session, it's a little fun, getting the board, as we've been talking about through hours and hours of meetings, getting them to understand it in about 30 minutes was a little interesting, but they understood and got it. So that's kind of what all that means. An authorizing employee may only donate up to 10 days of sick leave per year. Recipients must have exhausted all accrued sick, personal, or vacation leave before accepting a donation. This includes time at their disposal if they participate in the sick leave bank. Recipients must provide documentation to the district by a treating physician of the illness, accident, or injury for which the leave is being authorized. And donated sick leave may not be used for personal leave. Any unused donated sick leave will be returned to the authorizing employee in reverse order for which it was received, which is required by law. And donated sick leave shall have no terminal value. So it's a little different from the initial discussions, what you guys proposed on this was who can receive it. And in our discussions, and it went into a lot of different people, whether they were victims of some type of abuse or going through different things. We wanted, because it's sick leave, to keep it to illness or accidents or injuries that keep it in that sick leave realm. So I know you guys probably have some questions, so we'll open it up. Yep.
So, for number 9, obviously you have to have the medical thing that goes to the doctor and verifying and everything like that. Would maternity leave fall into that? You have to verify maternity leave for the doctor.
We would not include maternity leave in this. Now, if there's complications due to pregnancy and then that's documented, right, then that would fall into a realm. But just overall maternity leave would not fall.
I guess my only question, goes back to number 4,
Mhm.
just to understand. Do both parties need to have been working here for 1 year, or?
Well, 6 kind of delineates that a first-year person would not be able to, because until they have 10 days,
10
which they
days,
won't have
which
until
they
the
won't have.
following year anyway,
Correct.
they would never qualify.
Yes, that is right.
So
That's
it
my
only
answer to
leaves the. Okay.
Any other questions on that for now?
About the domestic violence, if someone is seeking mental health therapy, that would be a doctor. So would that then qualify? I mean, I understand that just I need a day because I need to pack up my stuff and move out. Maybe that doesn't qualify, but if they're in counseling or seeking a doctor.
I think if you've got an issue that's can be documented by the treating physician, I think we're okay there. We do get into occasionally employee relations when we're looking at different leaves and what qualifies for FMLA, what doesn't, and things like that. We do have to split some hairs and get down in the weeds to figure out some of that, right? Because if somebody is just, I'm going to see my psychologist, that's a little different than being treated by a psychiatric, situation. So,
Well, having a general thing set up is a little different. This would be a crisis or
yeah,
emergency of some sort.
Well, I think you need to be inpatient or something like that at hospital facility or counseling.
Not many of those. Allocation.
yeah. We don't see it a lot, maybe 1 or 2 times a year where someone's in some type of psychiatric crisis that they're being admitted to stay for an extended period of time.
I've had 2 in 23 years.
Yeah, and it's usually there's some serious issues wrapped around it, and it's usually very convoluted and it's never the same, and there's all kinds of things that are attached to it. Because we've had people that try to abuse those situations also. And sometimes it just gets weird without revealing too much.
So since you referenced FMLA, and you said regular maternity would not be covered, but if there's medical complications, like, emergency C-sections, or they develop complications how do you guys handle that? Are the medical complications considered FMLA, and then the person still can take time for the parental leave? Or is it all get kind of rolled together?
I think if they're already on FMLA, all other leave situations are.
No, I'm just wondering how you handle like regular maternity. I'm assuming that regular maternity isn't eligible for sick leave pay.
No, it's not.
But if someone has to be on bed rest or get preeclampsia or has a medical condition that takes them out.
I don't
Is
think
that
that's
covered?
been included in sick leave, right? I mean, you guys can think back, that would have probably come to our committee, and I don't think
so,
that's the
no.
case.
I don't think.
Can't think of that.
It's my turn.
So they either haven't brought it to sick leave or the sick leave bank or the sick leave bank automatically just said
I
no.
think it
because
automatically, yeah,
was Maternity.
yeah,
They've taken,
But
the ones
that's
that I'm
a
aware of,
crisis. I mean,
They've
that's,
they've extended their leave on their FMLA.
but I think we get in a situation where sometimes you can talk yourself into bed rest, you know what I mean?
That's different. I mean, like specifically people that get to be pre-diabetic or they get preeclampsia, I mean, their life is at risk.
Yeah.
At that point, not just because they're tired.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I'm not saying that to
I
be,
mean,
I'm not saying that to be insensitive, I'm saying it because I've seen it. So that's why I don't want you, I'm not making some basic assumption. I've seen people that are wanting to, there's some strategic, there's some strategic family things that go on in our district. So, which I'm all for supporting the families, but, you know. That whole.
Trying to understand.
Aspect, yeah. I think that pretty much covers what we have for today. I would like, if you guys don't have any questions, I'd like to take a caucus and have a little discussion around the tutoring piece. And then come back in a few minutes.
okay. That's fine. We can discuss it. MOU for sure.
And I sent you and Haley, the membership form and the cancellation showing all the strikes.
Okay,
So that you can print a copy for, that. Basically, I just took the working contract that I was working on where, and so it has page numbers on it, because that's what it would be.
okay,
That's why it looks a little weird.
okay. All right, it is 10:35 on 7/13/23. We're pausing for caucus. Returning from caucus, it's 11:16 a.m. on 7/13/2023 for LCS LCA bargaining. So couple difficulties with the tutoring piece. So from what I can pull, it does appear $30 an hour is where it's at. Some of that, but of how our tutoring is paid is through pack sheets, and pulling that data from this level is a little interesting. It's going to take a little more work. And we've got also, I know you guys are talking about federal programs, but we've also got other sources of funding of tutoring also, which is like SAI and some other budgets. And then the third layer of it is that we've got outside people that come in and are paid for tutoring. It's at a much increased rate from there. It's a minimum wage, but it's a temporary tutoring type position. So
They don't do that through the district payroll. They do that through an outside company.
no, this is through we pay them. It's a temp job, kind of like a substitute. It's under our temporary positions, and they make $15 an hour to do that.
So it's not regular employees. Oh, other
Correct.
people for just $15 now.
Yeah, and I think that's probably born out of, it was avid tutors to begin with. I think it's been done for some other tutoring, but it's born out of not being able to find, people that are willing to do it. And that's where our struggle has been. So at this time, I can't put language to it. I can tell you we'd like to continue $30 an hour. And then as I talked to Mr. Flowers, he assesses, cause I can tell you like SII, he's gotta assess that source and look at it because it's well spent. And then we need to look at Title I and see how all that's going. So that I can't make a decision on that today. So I need to do some further inspection and get with the departments, and they're probably gonna have to see how those flushed out through tax sheets from the schools, and it's gonna involve finance and payroll also.
Which should be consistent. I mean, as much as possible.
Well, and that's what I want to check and see, because I don't know. I mean, from my team and the few people we could speak to about it, to their knowledge, 30 is where it's at, right? So, we just want to make sure consistency is what's happening.
All rates of pay should be set in the contract. Nobody should be setting a rate of pay that's not in the contract.
And I think it's probably just been born of years of it coming out of grants.
I've dealt with this in many places. The grants just go, well, this sounds good, and right in the blank.
Well, and like I said, when I haven't been touched for a while, $30 probably sounds pretty darn appealing at one time, right? So we can do some more research on that and we can work it out. However we need to work it out, but I need to make sure I'm not doing damage through my ignorance.
And that would be, that's in appendix D. So we have a question for you on appendix D.
Okay.
So we had included language at the top, basically referring people back to Article 16 to say, hey, make sure you look back at Article 16. And we didn't know if that was an intentional deletion or
Not an intentional deletion.
So
We're
that
fine
is,
with it.
that's fine.
I apologize.
That being said, the only thing I think in D that we're really unsure about then is the mentoring piece, of course, that we're
Yeah, I think we just
still
need to,
discussing.
we need to let that flush out a little bit. The people that are gonna be doing the majority of the work on that, we need to be able to discuss that with them. And Mr. Flowers, I know, met with them and had some initial conversations yesterday. We briefly talked about it when we got back from the job fair, but I know they're preparing. That he said they felt like good about our next meeting that we had calendared and determine who else they wanted to bring and what discussions we need to occur there. I think we'll gain a lot more idea of what, I mean, that just traditionally that has been a lot of people's work. So, we'll have to get over the humps of, making a collaborative effort, and at the same time, we're still filling our responsibilities.
And so if we continue with this, then how are the mentors paid at the end of the year? So if we would do something, let's say we continue to talk with our discussions and we decide to change this somehow, whatever that may be, but it's changed and it's in a MOU per se. Until that would be changed, whether it be whatever, or if it stays, they would be paid like in May.
They're paid at the end of the year,
At the end of
they
the
have
year.
to turn in their logs.
So whether they
before
get
they're paid.
500 or 600, I mean,
As
whatever.
long as you have
but
the changes before May.
before May.
Correct.
We confirm for all the first year teachers in the county at the end of the year so that we can disperse.
Okay. So just to clarify, then in appendix D, we're still working on the mentoring, and then you're going to check on the tutor idea of
Yes,
what's happening, basically.
yes.
We basically have nothing in appendix D that talks about tutoring. Right, we have suggested adding language, which we now can't add until we get clarification on what's happening. So we pulled up the, we read another MOU.
I mean, I prefer just to MOU it once we, because what I don't want to prevent the contract from being able to get where it needs to get. But I understand you're pretty clear in your desire. If somebody's being compensated, it needs to be outlined in contract. Right? So I get that. So. And my hesitation is knowing who all's going to be in Caucus, as seems like every time I think I'm going to be able to get a quick answer, that person's on vacation or trying to get there a little bit of time. So, if y'all are okay with it being MOU, then we can do that.
How long do you think it would be before you could even find out? Because that's kind of, I don't want to say it's
I
an
mean,
easy one, but yet it wouldn't be too far. And why I'm saying that is because we can't necessarily, even if we had a contract, signed, which is wonderful. We're not going to be able to do much until August anyway.
I can check pretty quickly to make sure that is $30. I'm gonna be dead honest with you from what I've heard. Do I think they're gonna be able to provide more money to it? Probably not. But we need to, before I say that, I need to check and make sure. I know SAI is like stretched. We're having to reevaluate that completely and how that's being spent. Title I, they're always stretched, and the raises, get applied to that budget also. So, I stress her out anyway.
Right.
Just-
Well, and that's why I'm just asking about, even if the tutoring is put in here in that same area and, tutoring is considered $30 an hour, that per se wouldn't change anything that's being paid supposedly right now.
Let me
Is
double
why.
check and make sure that's the case. And if it's needing fixed like that, then we can come back together really quickly. But I want to be able to verify. Because I know we were in our discussions, it went from 25 to 30. I'm not sure how long ago that was. It was pretty recently, right? That went from 25 to 30. That would try to encourage people to participate. And it's been hard to get people to tutor just
Retired.
for obvious reasons. Yeah, worn out.
Retired.
So,
And again, I guess just to clarify and try to figure out whether it's the 30 or the hourly rate, because hourly rate, some people supposedly, and again, I don't know who, but supposedly some would be paid the hourly rate versus the $30.
and that's where I want to make sure, right? So we're gonna have to scour a few different directions. How about I said by the end of next week, work week, that hopefully I'll have some answers for you. But prior to that, we'll figure out what that looks like.
Is summer school paid at 30 or the hourly?
I wouldn't read.
Yeah, summer school is hourly.
Summer school is getting big now.
Yeah, because that's not tutoring.
That's not true.
That's,
Yeah, thank you. The last one I did last year was still 30, but this year it's a little. Time sheet, it's just that it's somewhere.
So before you left, you guys hadn't handed out 18, so.
Yeah.
And I also emailed and said there were a couple that could be prepared for TAs.
I'm sorry. Repeat that.
yeah,
I'd emailed you guys and said after our discussion, we were done, and there were a couple items that could be prepared for TA.
Okay,
I sent them to you and Hannah, you guys got the printer, right?
5, the forms and then one.
If MOD to sign, it doesn't need to be a special.
Yeah,
permit,
I think
but you sure, didn't you?
No, I have not. So
I have
can
extra
just-
copies.
Okay, so that one's good.
Or print this next copy.
did you say you sent them to us?
No, I
Or you
sent you a
just-
note.
No.
Okay, I know,
And
okay.
said, one, I sent the membership piece for you guys to print, and I asked if Haley could prepare the other two. Cause I hadn't downloaded them yet, I saw the email, and then that she had already sent the initial items. I was driving, so I don't read emails when I drive. They frown upon that.
Like, I was doing on,
Like this?
no, yes. Are you ready to do it?
I'm just like, oh my goodness.
Listen, we have the documentation.
I could do Article 5.
If y'all send her just any of the documents that have a sign box, so she can just cut and paste those sign boxes onto them, and they look consistent with all the other ones we've done. And then go compare those.
Doing it right now.
Yes.
Sending it now. I went ahead and did Article 5 from your email. So I'm sending it back with the box in it,
Okay.
so that you have it. I think of last week. There. Pardon? Well, I sent that to her to print the 2 pages, so, and for you guys just to sign it to show the changes, so that we have a record that you can read it, right? I've already struck it from the contract. The draft, the working copy.
For the sake of recording space, I'm gonna pause the meeting for a break to get our document printed. It's 11:33 a.m., 7:13. Okay, returning from short break, it's 11:41, 7/13/2023. So I got a phone call back I was looking for. I was able to verify, through our Title I department that manages all the federal grants, Title I and Title IV, and some other miscellaneous, that $30 is the consistent rate across those grants. So I can, what I'm at a level to authorize at the moment is, amending our counter proposal that we presented this, morning to read, same title, federal grant tutoring, Title I, Title IV, as you guys labeled it. And any federal grant instructional staff tutoring will be compensated at a rate of $30 per hour. So I can at least solidify that in the language for you guys, and then counter proposal.
Okay, when we, looked at the starting base salary, when we put in the extra 5%, when we looked at the starting base salary, that is right at $33 an hour.
It's $32.99.
Yeah, so, is there a way that we can put in to be $33 an hour to say that it's
Base salary.
or
I
base salary?
cannot do that. I can't authorize that today. There's multiple grants that runs across, and that was whenever, Ms. West got back with me. She was like, yes, that's the consistent rate, but she's not prepared to the other day increase that.
Okay, and is mainly the tutoring comes out of grant monies, correct?
I would say it comes out of some type of restricted dollars. Because if there is some SAI tutoring that's going on, that's not necessarily grant dollars, but it's restricted dollars.
Or now we've had ESSER.
Yeah, it's like,
And so, okay, all right,
where it does come out of some, it's not usually, it's not typically straight general fund, but SAI is considered in that. So.
okay.
If I would make those amendments as I just described, would we be at an acceptable point to TA Appendix D?
I believe so, in making sure that we still continue with the mentoring.
Okay. Definitely the mentoring is going to continue, and we'll, as things become reveal themselves, the bargainable items through that will definitely be addressing those, and for MOU like we discussed.
So at 18 for right now.
If we have 18, we'll go ahead and pass that to them. And I've got copies of it coming around, and this is just over.
Yeah.
It's that last page that has the bereavement. Yeah, and if you guys are good with that, she also prepared it for signatures.
Okay, there is. Oh, that's one. I picked one.
Yeah. Still sorting through.
It just in staple.
It's just that's there.
We'll take the whole one.
I got this one.
Alright. And we're good.
For once today, I'm listening to the writer. All right, do you want to go to the box?
Kathy, did you know if you touched the side, that's all it was? We just turn it over. Yeah, and I just don't flip it over and it's fine. It's just a- And you know, like, I think people that sort of like great, and you don't want to answer it, and you just want to bring. That's as much. Yeah. Yeah, because we don't know that.
All I have to do is minus the one back.
I've got, Haley, we added the unintentional deletion of that line to the top, and she's going to put in the language that we just discussed on the federal. I can pause and we can wait for all that, or do we have some in between discussions?
Well, one discussion, are we continuing with the MOU for night school, or how are we doing? Or are you guys still thinking about, or what is, I mean, I know it was discussed before that it would be a 2-year
Yes.
thing.
I need to revisit the MOU, but I think that the plan is for it to continue on. We got one more year that is funded, and then so unless you guys have heard different, I think it's proceeding on through the next year. These guys might freak out if I told them any different right here. But it's so yes, that is the intention.
Okay. And I guess we just continue with the Article 1 and PERC.
I think we just gotta do some research.
Doing some stuff, and then what is the teacher support? Is that the mentoring stuff? Is that what you're
Yes,
talking about with
yeah,
the teacher
yeah.
support plan?
I can see what people that send me that, those type of now, so I'll give it a shot to look at it.
Yeah, that's just, they just kind of took what I told them and turned it into lawyer language. Why, they go, why are you doing this? I said, because we haven't clarified the unit in 30 years and we kind of like want the right names. And they went, oh, that makes sense.
That's kind of the topic these days.
Yeah, well, because what will happen is if PERC triggers an election, the only people that they will send a ballot to is someone whose job title is listed in the certification. And that would be very problematic.
Yeah.
Because we don't have all those names of teachers anymore. We just say teacher, they wouldn't send them to anyone with a teacher job title unless it's listed.
When I was looking at your original email with the, you were talking to me about, and yes, the pre-K, all those fall under teacher.
Right.
Uh,
I just wanted to know, why did we include those words? Was there a specific reason? Because those words in the parens aren't in the job description like
Correct,
that.
they're not, it's just.
It was probably just the internal note. So it doesn't make any sense to me to say legal, semicolon, and then lift. Like, what does that mean?
We only have specific job description for like a CPE teacher, there's a job.
Something special, yeah.
Special applies for them.
Well, because they have to attend industry certification things, there's different things they have to do.
Right.
Does it matter that I don't have a blue ink?
I have one.
Because I've looked and I don't
Yeah.
have a blue ink.
Mine,
I had like
just check to make sure.
three ink pens in
I can use that
the.
one.
Yes.
Hey, we got an extra. So do you guys have a deadline in October? Is that
Deadline
as
next-
far as, with all the new, with the new law, why does October stick out there?
Well, okay, funny thing. The law on submitting your plan by October 1 for the teacher's salary has been in place for the last 4 years. The first year they did it, DOE sent out a letter and saying, hey, tell us where you are in bargaining. So everybody did that. The second year, they didn't say anything until December. And then last year, they were all very adamant that we're not going to send you the money till you send us your ratified plans. Well, now that they've put it in the FEFP, they can't withhold any of that funding anymore. That's why we think they're doubling down on their October 1 date, where it used to be just submit plans. So what I'm telling people is by September 15th, if you haven't come to an agreement, you might as well file for impasse. So at least you can report to them on October 1st that you're at impasse and be done with that. Because you can keep bargaining right up into the time you have a hearing. I've bargained and made school board people wait to start the hearing for the legislative hearing to adopt the changes, because we're in the back room figuring out a deal. We kept pushing them back and pushing them back. So you can, until the board votes, you can bargain.
And that's what we had seen some change, and I talked to Scott kind of how we're going to be impacted by that. I was referring to like the stuff with your unit clarification and the
Yeah, that
registration.
doesn't have a deadline on the
Okay.
unit clarification. We just want to get it done before their next registration period, which is April next year, March next year.
Okay, that's what I was
Because
wondering.
it does take PERC a couple of months to act. And I want to know how they're going to run elections on this scale. And someone told me, Dawn Bonds told me in Seminole that she was told that there's a shared cost to the district if an election has to be run. That there's somehow a cost to you guys too.
I read that somewhere. I can't remember the.
Yeah, we're trying to track down how much it is, like just a flat fee or per person fee, or like, I'm assuming they're gonna make us pay for postage and crap. In small places, they can go on site and run the elections, but in bigger places, they'll have to mail it out.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
Plus, there's only 7 of them, so I don't know how they're gonna run it again. I don't know how they're gonna do this. Maybe they'll have to hire temps. Just need a final Word document of 18 with the changes. I think the rest of them. No, I need Word document, I need a contract.
I'll forward that to you, right, as soon as I get things. Did, were there 2 copies?
I just gave it.
You got them? Okay. Yeah. Don't worry, it's just recorded. No big deal. It's not the worst thing we've seen apart.
Oh, I was just trying to, yeah. I was doing it fast and just didn't do it well. It had June in it originally.
And the other side,
Okay, I just sent 18 and like it.
Keep signing your name out.
I got one.
Your copy.
Oh.
Are you guys still good for Thursday the 20th at 10 for the contract review? Okay.
I'm almost done. But if I get the new ones in today, we'll be done.
Okay. So with Article 1, it seems like what we have left, right? Or-
Well, we can't, what we said was, we're gonna wait until PERC rules, and then we'll come back and sign
Okay.
Article 1 probably with the next full book.
Okay,
Because Article 1 doesn't matter to anybody but us.
okay,
PERC only cares about what's in their certification.
okay. So we're good as
Yeah.
is with Article 1.
Yeah, as soon
Okay.
as they rule and give us the changes, then we can.
Very good. SAU's coming back from that.
I sent one to them that has a place for you to sign, but I don't think it's been printed.
Okay. Let me double check.
No.
Want to grab it now?
The one with the QR code, right?
Yeah.
I basically just put the papers out of the contract and added a little place at the bottom. It looks a little bit different because I couldn't do anything about the PDF. It's very limiting. I tried twice to copy and paste that into a Word document to play with. That box was crazy. I hate embedded text boxes and Word making strange things.
This was the LCA membership cancel forms.
Yeah, membership and cancel.
And we basically just reduced it to LCA, the QR code and the sentence and took out the forms.
Okay.
Because you guys don't have to see those in.
So that's not. That document, it had them crossed out MOUs, but it doesn't have the page, the QR code page.
Did it print out, did it print properly?
It's not showing just on the PDF, so. You know,
Will be just 2 pages, the membership and cancel forms. Nope, it printed the wrong pages. That's my fault.
It's in the shop. Yeah. Well, there was a lot of recalls. Yeah, and I'm having them all frequent times. Then 4 years of new 2022. That was mine. That is that. I told you about our.
I'm back.
And I did have it already laid out in Word. That's why I remembered it was a nightmare.
I'm hearing you say it's like and word off.
Not email so much. But yes, I'm used to having 3 screens. I feel like I'm typing with one hand tied behind my back and 3 broken fingers. It's terrible.
Yeah. Got it.
Even when I go to the house to do work, it makes me insane that I don't have 2 screens, even if I don't need them. Well,
Guess we gotta watch Candy Crush on one of them. I'm sure you're not falling behind.
And then, assuming that you would send the Zoom link
Yes, yes, absolutely.
for next week.
And just so, and then our teacher mentor meeting next round is on 7/31 at 2:30 to 3:30.
Yes.
As far as windows for ratification. Are you guys thinking that what week do you think that will occur?
Good question, because I think we have to give 2 weeks. Notice, like 2 weeks.
2 weeks after the first day back.
So it would have to be at least. So. We go back to third.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird.
So, I mean, I don't foresee it being.
I know the board will ask, that's why I was
Yeah.
there.
When's your first board meeting in September?
It is the 11th. You got Labor Day on the 4th. That's the only thing, probably make anything weird, I don't know.
Yeah.
Would they need to, could you get it on the agenda that if their results will be announced? Or do they insist that you have the final information in the 10 days in advance?
They have been fine with all the way up to. We've even done pending results of ratification.
Okay.
So I'll aim for that 11th.
So you could do the week of Labor Day.
So we could do the 6th or August the 30th. So
Right.
the 6th, I guess.
Do it on early release day.
It's usually when we do it, yes. It's
Okay.
usually on the Wednesday. Just because it's just easier to, seems like.
And that'll give everybody a chance to get settled into the school year and leave.
Right.
You can get your ballots printed and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, because it takes a while to do.
It looks weird because of that crazy amount. It won't print all in one page.
We're better we have early.
So let me ask, this is a little different before. This is a little different than what y'all had originally presented. Before it said membership application. And now it's struck.
Check it all out.
why the membership application piece come on? Because
I think originally, I mean, we were thinking just because membership, we didn't,
We thought that was your concern.
yeah, because you didn't want membership like
my,
in there
I,
anywhere.
no, my concern is more along the lines of I want it to know, I want the intent of what it's there for to be there. Because what I don't want is straight link just to your website. And because if it outlives, and I'm sorry if I wasn't clear last time I just need to know it was going to be okay, period. But I would like for the intent to be there that it's going to a membership application.
Okay.
Because if it outlives all of us and then all of a sudden there's a war and that link goes straight to your webpage, which is full of who knows what, right? So I would like for the intent of what this is to still just be membership application. Does that make sense?
Okay. So I guess we just misunderstood what your concern was.
Okay.
So you want it to say.
Because there's nothing in the law.
So you would put
It
that-
just basically says no more payroll dues deduction, right? It doesn't,
It doesn't say anything about not having.
In this. So it's supposed to still then say lcea.org/membership. But where
Yes.
does this link now take it to? Didn't you guys change the link then?
Change it to the website, because I thought, my understanding was that we didn't want anything associated with membership.
no,
I thought that was the concern.
I'm fine with it if that's how they go to a membership form. But for it, a full-on solicitation to y'all's website, that's what the concern is.
Got it. All right, so then we need the updated
Yes.
QR.
Created yesterday. That's right.
We need to update the QR code to reflect.
Yes.
Right now, it's going to.
Yeah,
So this one that you gave us today goes to the website.
Trying to make it go. Come on.
We created one to go to the membership yesterday. Elizabeth did.
So you have the new one, Elizabeth?
I do.
All right,
Give me
so
a
I'm gonna close it. It's in the TA folder and it's called Union Membership Form.
Are you talking about on our end or in the?
In our OneDrive, in the lake folder, in the TAs.
So,
Well, okay,
yeah, no problem.
third time's a charm.
We'll get there. Where were you going?
I have been interviewing a teacher at 12:30.
you may go.
May I go?
You may go.
Thank
quick.
you.
So I don't have to tell Chad now.
No, I think he knows nothing.
We get it done today. I had some feedback from our discussions that we had at the party last time.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
You said tentative agreements. Is that where it is?
Yeah, it's in tentative agreements, and I think it's one at the bottom, says membership cancellation form. It's complicated when you get used to being able to do that.
So the new QR code that I made doesn't have our logo in it. Are you okay if I add the logo? Okay.
We don't even know what you mean, sorry.
The little logo.
I know, but I mean, like. Does it change anything?
Yes, for me.
Sidebar lighting for
Yeah,
making it pretty.
it's not dependent. So. Show them the new.
That's why I said it's not in the QR
It's not
code
in the QR code, it's.
because I would have to recreate it if I did it.
You're good.
I just emailed it. I will check that is the correct version.
Thank you.
The internet's been super goofy here today.
We had ours not working the other day. Hamstrung definitely. It's like, oh my God.
That's everywhere because in our neighborhood it went down. It's been there so much.
We lost power last night. No storms or nothing, we lost power. We did too in Houston, it's about an hour. I was like, here, where are you at?
Squirrel.
Through the park out, yeah, outskirts, but. Was it late when it happened or no? Yeah, it was, well, it was in the evening. Yeah. 7:30, somewhere around in there. Maybe I'll just sleep the chargers when they come in. It was weird because it kept flickering on and off and then it finally just went on. Nobody knew why. Never did get any text messages or news or anything. It's okay. Thank you for the explanation. It would be nice.
Lakeland Electric sends you text messages to tell you that there's something going on.
Yeah,
I usually get the text message about the time the power comes back on.
Yeah, we signed up for the messages, but we never got one last night. That's just city of Leesburg Tower? No.
Okay.
Around the country where it's considered country. Because we're not in city limits. So it's county police and county and everything, but yet we have, you know, a Fruitland Park address. Yeah. And Fruitland Park goes way the heck out. It is. Yeah. Yeah, because we're way out on Rose Airport. We're close to Rose Airport, so that way. The house. All, I mean, not all the time, Christmas time. Not Christmas.
I know there's a private airport going the roads. 444 on the left side, you go through a road and you see a private airport.
It's by the church. In a way, I mean, that's like the Baxter, it's not really Grace Airport, but yes, it's a private. You just go around that, like, you get talked to a church, which is on Grace Airport. Grace Airport comes down to Like you,
That airport's private, right? It's like
yeah,
it's a
so,
private-
yeah, it's their house,
It's
it's
a private or.
private, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, unlike the one that's out on, close to 42, they actually have like Love's Landing or something that's called whatever, and it's actually a community that is an aviation community. And so they have their runway, but it's theirs. And that's out by, Marion County Road. Everybody, I'm from.
I got excited.
No,
And instead of going like right to Collins, you would go left, and you can see that it actually says, like there's a little sign there that says low flying planes. So you have to watch the low flying planes. You want to check it before we
Yeah.
sign?
All right.
It should go to the proper place, but before we sign, I'll do. Yes. Goes to electronic.
Yep.
Which is similar, but.
I think we've got all done for today. I think we've reviewed our days coming up. Anything else for the other group?
Anything else?
That concludes today's session of bargaining. It's 12:27 p.m. 7/13/2023. Thank you everyone for